What do you make of this? Ken Kuranchie, I know he's a member of the NPP as well. He's a former parliamentary candidate. He's also a lawyer, right? He's doing this for public interest or for the party. Why is he doing this?
All right, let me say good morning to our viewers out there. Roland, whether Ken Kuranchie is a member of our party or not, at this moment, we are looking at he going to court as a citizen of Ghana. And if you look at the rates, it is expressly stated in there that he, as a plaintiff in here, goes to the court as a citizen of Ghana, and not on the interest of the NPP as well. But be it as it is, I mean, the Constitution guarantees it that as a citizen of Ghana, if you think that any act or omission of a person violates any part of the Constitution, you can invoke the powers of the court and seek interpretation or seek to halt that activity of the person. So it is within his constitutional right to seek such interpretation from the court. Be it as it may also, I think there are interesting reliefs that he seeks out there. And if you look at the reliefs, for me, in order not to go deep into the reliefs that he sought, I think that the most appropriate thing to say is that we look out for the court to come out with the interpretations of those provisions that he has invoked the original jurisdictions of the Supreme Court to interpret it. And as we ask, for me, I think that those are interesting provisions, but my candid opinion is that maybe it's going to be difficult for him to obtain whatever that he seeks from the court, because from my knowledge and the exposition on the law, I think that if you check the various canons of interpretation, if the courts are to interpret those provisions, Article 68(2) that he seeks, it's going to be difficult for him to get whatever he is seeking from the court. But the honest truth is that it is also good for the development of the law. Mostly people, or we Ghanaians, find it difficult in testing our laws and other statutes. So for me, I think it's a good thing that he seeks to test the law. I know there's that likelihood that people will associate his decision to go to the court with the NPP and put all manner of spin on it. But the honest truth is that he is a Ghanaian. He has every right to test the law. It is good for our democracy, and it's also good for the development of the law. So I think that, yes, whatever that he's doing now, it is better for us to look out for the outcome as the court or our judges seek to interpret these provisions. Also, the other aspect or one benefit that is going to come out of this is that there are other gray areas as to the provisions of the law that he seeks to interpret. And I feel definitely as an outcome of the interpretation of the court, there's going to be other consequential orders which will help us in terms of the development of our democracy and the law as well. So it's a good exercise for him to embark on. Just that my candid opinion is that it's going to be difficult for him to obtain the reliefs that he sought from the courts.
Okay. Mrs. Ampiyale, when you saw the rates in the public domain, what did you make of it? As a legal practitioner yourself?
As a lawyer.
Okay, as a lawyer.
I am not entitled to discuss matters that have been placed before the court. However, for purposes of public education and for those of Ghanaians who may not have the luxury of being in Accra and Kumasi to get what exactly is the issue. So because you may go to a village, then they will say, hey, what's what the Obiko court? You know, and others. I will try to explain some of the issues for the purpose of public education only. I agree very much with my nephew that this constitution we are operating is over 30 years.
Yes.
And there are still some gray areas. Some are gray depending on the visual curvature of the person looking at it. Some are gray because it is not clear. And as a student of constitutional law, such avenues are the ways to, bring certainty certainty to certain provisions in the Constitution. And I will want to find out what words in the Constitution, that constitutional provision, the 68 and 61, 62, what words therein are ambiguous. That must seek the interpretation of the court. Because the Supreme Court itself had ruled that where the provisions are clear, there will be no need for interpretation. You understand? And Roland, I have checked Article 66 and 68, and every word there, even applying the ordinary meaning, that is textual, English, literal, there's no ambiguity in any of them. However, like my nephew is saying, he wants to test his dexterity and maybe help the law. But I would agree with Kumi that I don't find any merit on the face of the record regarding the reliefs he's seeking to take from the court. Now, if you look at the way the writ itself is structured,
You love it.
Roland, I say if you look at the structure of the writ, you will find out that President Kufuor has also been brought into the question. Poor
He's
old
one of
man.
the defendants.
Yes, poor old man. He's not seeking re-election. He's not seeking re-election. He's not looking for any appointment. So why do you bring in President Kufuor? Interestingly, the Attorney General, who is supposed to be the government's advisor, on law and justice, is also a defendant. Is also a defendant. And Roland, this writ flies on the face of all precedents that I have read in respect of this matter. Now, if you read a constitution, you don't read them in isolation. We are taught in law to read the whole provisions as a whole. So where provisions have not been made for a particular angle, you will find it elsewhere. So you read the constitution as a whole. Now, if you also want to do a proper, meaningful interpretation, you have to use one of the avenues of interpretation, or what we call the canons of interpretation. What was the purpose of the provisions that you are seeking to interpret? All right? Would the decision that will be given sit with the general good of the country? The reasonability. That's also there. So, Roland, for the purpose of just educating your listeners
And viewers.
and viewers, let's go through Article 66. The provisions are not too many. I hope you can help me, allow me to read.
Yes, please. You are allowed, actually.
A person elected as a president shall, subject to clause 3 of this article, hold office for a term of 4 years from the date on which he is sworn in as president. So we can have one-term president, right? Somebody can be one-term president. But the Constitution did not end there. Clause 2, a person shall not be elected to hold office as president of Ghana for more than 2 terms. 2 terms means what? 4 plus 4. Did it say 2 concurrent terms? No. You know what is concurrent? Yeah. 67, 68.
Continuous.
Actually, 67, 68.
Yes.
Which means the 2 terms satisfying Article
They
60.
follow each other, you mean?
Yes, to follow each other. But the provision itself does not say that they must follow each other. Are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yes.
It says you can do 4 years, but
That is if we do a literal interpretation of it.
both purposeful and literal interpretation, because the words there are not ambiguous in any way, form, or shape. So the gravamen of the issues should be from Article 66(2). A person shall not be elected to hold office as president of Ghana for more than 2 years, for 2 terms. Add it to the first clause, 1 year, isn't it? But you can do it 2 terms. So you see in Kuranchie's rate that the person seeking re-election must be a sitting president. Where in which part of the Constitution states that? That he must be a sitting president. Now, you know, we are following the British and American Constitution, pari passu, with a little modification. Now, if you go to the history of American politics, you will find out that Cleveland, you remember the old man Cleveland? Yeah. He left the White House after 4 years and came back several years after. So there is precedent that a president can, when he leaves office, but has not completed the 2 terms, which is not mandatory anyway, but that's what the Constitution provides, can come back. Cleveland did it. Now, if you come to Brazil, your uncle, Lula da Silva, he did several terms, went back and came back.
Different patches.
Different patches.
And he's now been elected again.
Elected. And America, currently, apart from Donald Trump's trouble with the law, he's the front runner for the Republicans. So the Constitution from which we copied, the American Constitution, and even when you go to Great Britain, all right, such practice has not been outlawed. The only condition that the Constitution sought to prevent was a president having done 4 years, added to another 4 years, then he continues in office. Because we do not like this kind of Malaysian kind of government where the president says that Putin kind of government. You see that then at a point you change the Constitution and increase your number of years. Because we have known that it has created problems in many African countries where presidents intentionally change the Constitution, getting the tail end of their rule to do that. So
that's why the framers of the Constitution decided to put it there.
Yes, because I was a member of the Consultative Assembly.
You were?
Yes, and yesterday I read the discussions that went into that. You know, every clause we put in this Constitution had a certain background, and that's why we call it the spirit and letter of the law. You understand?
Yes, sir.
If you read the clauses which I have told you are not ambiguous, they don't need any interpretation. It's clear. I'm not too sure I want to question the motive of my very good friend. Ken is my very good friend of Ken Kuranchie. Save that he wants to tell the law.
Okay.
But if he goes beyond that, then we'll talk about it.
Wow. So right now, it's a matter of law.
Right now, once he has put this matter before the court, whatever his personal motives may be, are not important.
Are irrelevant.
Are not irrelevant. But it's important for me to caution that John Mahama has suffered too much mischief in this country.
What do you mean by that?
I mean the question you were asking.
I just asked a question.
If you do newspaper, analysis, in 2015 to 2022, he has been cited as corrupt and incompetent for over 614 times.
Who did the analysis?
I did.
No.
You know me, I do a lot of research. 614 times because somebody just said incompetent and
Is it in the front page, on the front page, or in content?
If you both content and the front page, you see the number of times. I mean,
incompetent
and corruption.
Incompetent
and corrupt.
John Mahama.
Yes.
Corrupt John Mahama.
Yes.
Okay.
Mahama has been a victim of media conspiracy. You see, some media men are so quick even to announce his defeat in the elections when those that are not the election results. Today, the issue on the table are bread and butter issues, not so. Today, the issues on the table. You use 25 billion cedis to collapse banks, local banks, which you said we're going to use 9 billion. Not so. That's the issue that should concern us. And if you took those banks away from the indigenous bankers and paid the customers as you promised, because the 25 billion, if we had used it, means that we have paid every customer of the bank. Not so. As you see, have we paid the banks? We gave them bonds. We gave the customers the bonds. I was driving to Cape Coast, and I reached Kuranchie area there, and I saw Kwesindom's motorbikes, cars parked, getting rotten.
At the bank premises.
Bank premises. And in some places, they auction it. They take banks belong to others and give you to another bank.
What has that got to do with the suits?
I am saying that there are issues of more importance to the Ghanaian. Right? Today, if you go to Takoradi or you live in Cape Coast Takoradi, would you want to drink water from the tap? Roland, would you want to drink water from the tap? That's the existential problem we are facing as Ghanaians. I am a pensioner, right? I'm a pensioner. My fear with other pensioners is that, but for the attack on our financial independence, this country would have collapsed. Like Oforiatta himself said that by March, the country would have collapsed. Roland, these are the issues. And we are behaving as if we have reached success, Eldorado, for getting 300 million. That's the way we are behaving. As if nothing is wrong with us. You sit in this country, you are now the leading producer of gold in the world, the whole world, right? What is your net value of cocoa gold production? Over 6.something billion annually.
We are discussing the court.
I am saying that for me, this court issue, I would have wished that somebody took these matters to court rather than this one. So allow me to do my.
You can also pursue that.
Thank you very much.
Please hurry up and wrap up for me.
You will be my lawyer if I intend to. You know, today, what should attract people like Ken Kuranchie is to report on how our oil revenues are being siphoned away. I wish him well in court, but he should know that over 6 million people voted for John Mahama, almost equal to President Akufo-Addo. The difference is about 500, not so. And he should.
The difference is 500,000.
500,000.
Oh,
but at least we also have 6 million plus people. So NDC is not a party anybody should toy with. That's the point I want to establish.
Especially with this suit.
With anything else. The NDC went to Congress recently and overwhelmingly elected John Mahama. We have a duty to protect our leader by any means legal. Thank you very much.
And is it not instructive that Mr. Kuranchie is well within his rights, but can we take away the element that outside the remit of all this we're discussing, all the Supreme Court, following that suit that is filed before the court, is beyond a citizen, a well politically exposed person, and so that put the matters into perspective.
Well, I listened to him on Newsnight yesterday on TV3, and he mentioned.
You mean Ghana Tonight?
Ghana Tonight. Sorry, yes, thank you. And he mentioned beginning from 2019, that was when he started pursuing this issue by writing articles to draw attention to what he perceived as an anomaly. And in April this year, he also petitioned Parliament to look into the issue. And according to him, he was ignored, which according to this is what necessitated his having to go to the Supreme Court. For us, this is the beauty of our democracy. Regardless of where the perception about his political standing, the beauty of our democracy is so long anyone who feels aggrieved and has any misunderstanding or issues with any aspect of the Constitution has a right to approach the Supreme Court to seek interpretation on the particular matter. And the Supreme Court judges who will sit will also provide a declaration on the issue. We are very optimistic that whatever the outcome of this suit will be, when the Honorable Yali mentioned, I was happy you mentioned there was a part of the Constitutional Assembly, but I'm very sure that is what the judges will also, they will look at what the framers of the Constitution, for those, what they meant when they crafted those laws. And per their reasoned judgments, they will come out with a decision which, most importantly, will deepen our democracy. It's a good thing that he's decided to test the law, and at the end of the day, our democracy will be better off for it. But I agree with one thing Honorable Yali also said, that not to belittle this initiative and this suit, but there are very key issues, very key aspects of the Constitution which we as a political party have believed that Ghanaians should be focused on, and changes should be made to better our lives. We are of the view that Ghanaians should pursue good leadership and good politics. You see, we need leadership which will implement good policies and solutions to the present challenges that are facing us as a country.
We have a leader.
We do, but we don't believe that our leader is up to the task currently. There's mounting corruption that is suffocating this country. There are financial challenges we're all experiencing. Galamsey, it appears the fight has been lost. The government appears has given up. More worrying is the fact that the environmental challenges which are being unaddressed, the consistent cyanide that's polluting our lands and our rivers, babies that are being born with missing certain limbs. These are all time bombs that, as a country, in the next 5-10 years, we are going to have to deal with. All because just a few people are being left on the hook, who are being allowed to degrade the environment for their economic gain. As a party, some of the key constitutional reforms that we believe the country should focus on are primarily in the area of giving power to the people by allowing the election of the MMDCs. The Constitution for about 30 years now, all presidents have taken advantage of this aspect, and by appointing DCs into the district assemblies, and even appointing a third of the assembly members, by so doing, controlling decision making, and then making sure that the DC or MMDC who is appointed by the government does not work for the people. He's not accountable to the people because the people did not put him there. But we believe that if that provision is changed and the people get to elect their own MMDCs and then scrap the appointment of a third of assembly members, they will be accountable to the people. The situation where, for example, the District Assembly Common Fund is also, there are delays in the releases. No DC or MMDC will have the guts or be bold enough to take the president to court and say, look, I cannot develop my municipality, I cannot develop my district because you have not released funds. He'll be fired the very next minute. So this is one key challenge that we need to present.
How about the perception out there, especially if you look at the various discussion platforms, that this initiative or move by Ken Kuranchie is just one of the means to cause distraction within the political process prior to 2024? I mean, ulterior motive beyond all the issues we're talking about, interpretation of the Constitution and the law.
Well, it may be. I mean, it may be. He might be perceived to be in a certain political camp. So it is perfectly normal for others to read meaning into this action of his. There are also those who might feel that it is right, and in order, any student of the law will be very happy that so long as there's any apparent ambiguity in any aspect of the law, it is perfectly right for any individual to take up such an issue to the Supreme Court, yes, and to seek a true and proper interpretation and declaration of the matter, yes.
There are key issues that currently confront the Electoral Commission based on concerns about trust, etc. And then one we know of the vital individuals who could also ascend to power, beyond the individuals also in the MPP who want to take that flag bearership position is the whole conspiracy or the commentary or the narrative that because John Mahama is an obstacle to many of them, especially in the MPP, all these are being done to frustrate him. What do you say to that?
Roland, first of all, I want us to get some basic understanding here. The issue before the court is not one of an opportunity cost where we'll choose one variable over the other. This is clearly within the mandates of the judiciary to interpret our laws, and it's clearly within their powers to do so. So as we speak now, an issue before the court do not prevent any aspect of the executive or the functional rules of the executive from going on as expected by law. So let us not mix up the issue and make it look like there is a more important priority that we need to focus on as a people and leave this aspect out of public discourse. It also has its own place, and it is within the right of the citizen, in this case Ken Kuranchie, to go to court and seek that interpretation. So let us not mix the issue and box it up and make it look like by the virtue of the case being in court, government has relegated its duty and mandate because this case is before the court. The government is still performing its mandate as well. The other aspect too is that I did not want to make this a John Mahama issue, whereby...
Why is it not a John Mahama issue?
Hold on. It is not a John Mahama issue. It is a citizen of Ghana, as expected by law, going to court and seeking for the interpretation of the court. And for me, it is not a John Mahama issue. It could have been any other person, because he's seeking for an interpretation of a constitutional provision, which in his thinking, he thinks that there is an ambiguity there. If you look at the 68-2, for him, he thinks that an ex-president should not seek to hold any office of emolument or profit-making office. And for him, he thinks that by the virtue that he is an ex-president now, and he staging a coming back, he needs an approval from Parliament. It's an issue of you reading the law carefully and having a good understanding of the law as to whether you think that the court will interpret that in your favor or not. That's why I'm saying that without going into the merit of the case, I have stated my candid opinion that if you look at the various canons of interpretation, I think that if you want to subject it to those tests, he may not be able to secure the reliefs that he sought. But it is clearly not a John Mahama issue. And let us avoid the temptation of putting John Mahama in the picture. Because when...
but John Mahama is in the picture.
Hold on. Because he may be a beneficiary of the outcome of the decision. That's
how can he be a beneficiary?
Hold on. The gentleman is seeking for an interpretation of a constitutional provision, which may affect him one way or the other. So he had decided to join him to the suit. It is up to the court to make a determination on this matter. But I'm saying that, you see, let us resist the temptation of making it a John Mahama, because when you listen to my uncle Sampi Ali here, in his earlier discussion, he tried to make it look like we, the NPP, are up to some mischief, and Ken Kuranchie...
Because I asked a question, you haven't answered my question.
I'm coming, it's leading to your question, because your question is tied into the same comments that he made.
So you are reacting to him before you answer my question.
But I'm saying that John Mahama, has, even as an ex-president, he has his record staring at him, and people can decide to go have these discussions based on his record and his performance as an ex-president. Nobody needs to go to the court to use that to prove whether he was competent as an ex-president or whether he was corrupt or not. These are facts. These are public facts that we can go into it and speak to it. So you need not to use the law court through such a mischievous means to prove it. You understand? So we in the NPP, we do not entertain any fear. We do not harbor any mischief in our minds concerning John Mahama. His public records are there for us to discuss. With the issues of corruption and with the issues of incompetence, as my uncle Sampi Ali here puts it, these are issues that are of public knowledge already. The records are there, and we can always bring it out to discuss. Even he himself, when he initially staged a comeback in Cape Coast, Sampi Ali, you say, he mentioned it clearly that what? He wants to come back to correct the errors of the past. What errors are we talking about? So if you want to make it a John Mahama issue, there are a lot to go into it and discuss. But I would
Why is it
want
not a
to...
John Mahama issue when the swelling public commentary is that the MPP wants to put spokes in the tie of John Mahama?
Which part of the suits talk about NPP? Like I said earlier on, it is clearly stated in the release that Ken Kuranchie is a citizen of Ghana and he goes to court as a citizen to seek for this interpretation.
That these are all part of the machinations?
No, there's no machination anywhere.
To frustrate John Mahama?
The record speaks for itself. We think that our performance as a government will be able to sell out for us to regain the next power that we seek. So for us, we need not to be mischievous about John Mahama. His records are there. His Excellency John Mahama has his records in office and outside the office. And we can speak about this. And for us, we think that when you put that on the table and you match it to even the persons that are seeking to lead our party, we think that all of them are far ahead. And it will sell out on its own. The other aspect too is that all these people that are seeking to lead our party are not persons that you can say that they have records of ever being in power that you're going to compare to that of John Mahama. You understand? So when John Mahama is coming or he's staging a comeback, it is up to him to tell us what he think in his purview he failed to achieve the first time that he was in power. That is compelling him to come back to do for us as Ghanaians. If he cannot give us compelling reasons for us to buy into as to why he's staging a comeback, there will be no need for Ghanaians to buy into his campaign message. And clearly, as we speak now, as an opposition leader of the biggest opposition party, there's not been any clear vision that has been put forward as he's been on the bench for some time now. The other time when he was campaigning within his own party,
who?
His Excellency John Mahama.
Okay. No, he has no vision.
I am saying that for the past years, he's not been able to put forth any clear vision for us as Ghanaians. That this is a known vision that you can tout it and link it to President Mahama, that given the opportunity, this is what he seeks to achieve for us as Ghanaians. And I'm saying the last time when he was campaigning to his own political party, he said, look, if there's one thing that he can promise his own people, he can only promise them that having sat on the bench now and having had the opportunity to be advised by other experts, he thinks that the only thing he can promise his people is that he will come back with experience to do something better. But there's actually no better experience for us to share.
Money as part of all the commentary. And I'm picking this from our stream. TV3 Ghana, please go to there and then go follow us. And he's saying, they pretend, referring to the MP, they pretend that everything is the law. So they go to the courts and use it to frustrate the only candidate of the opposition who is the next best person to become the president of the Republic of Ghana. Forget about all that Mr. Kumi is saying.
Why do we need law to prove whether he's the best or not? We don't need law to prove that. That's why you see.
But you use all tactics.
Given the facts, which one is the all angle? Given the facts and the law, and the release that Ken Kuranchie seeks from the court, where does it come in that we are trying to use the law court to prove that he's not the best person? No. That's why I'm saying that if we want to discuss legal issues, we can stay within the remit of law and discuss. If we want to make a John Mahama issue, it's a matter of comparing his records to that of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Then we can tell which government performed better. So you can look at sector by sector. And for us, we think that if we want to compare sector by sector, this government has done far more better than the NDC in terms of employment, in terms of education.
Clifford Asemini says, why would you say Ken Kuranchie, who has been a parliamentary candidate hopeful before and always writes pro-government articles in his newspaper, not an interested party in who becomes president in 2024? How would you answer to that?
Because the Constitution provides in Article 2 that any person, it does not say that any political party or any politician or any person tainted in any political colors. It's about any person. So you could have been an ordinary person. It could have been my uncle Sampi Ali sitting here. You remember when he was making the fuss about the economy and talking about the difficulty and the challenges that Ghanaians are facing. I challenge him to it that he can pursue that in court if he also wants to do that. So it's a question of whether he is a Ghanaian, he qualifies to be that any person that is contemplated in law. and he qualifies to be that any person. So there is no need linking him to the NPP. And so far, we could have gone to court as the NPP. There are clear precedents and cases that you could see NPP versus maybe Electoral Commission, NPP versus EC, NPP versus other state organizations. So it is within our mandate as a political party to do so if we think there are gray areas of the law that we want to explore. But then you cannot just push him there because he's an NPP politician. That's why I'm saying that, yes, in any case, when I sat on this TV, I could have corroborated his stance or his position on the law. But I said that in my candid opinion, I think that it will be difficult for him to obtain the reliefs that he's seeking from the court. That's my candid opinion. If it is in the interest of my political party, or if we are up to any mischief as being intended by the tester, we would have put ourselves out there in the frame and discuss this. But I'm saying that it is just the issue of NDC themselves trying to put themselves up and bring John Mahama to the fore for discussion. But if you want to bring John Mahama to the fore for discussion, you can bring it on, and we'll discuss his records in office and out of office as to whether he qualifies to come back as an ex-president. Then Ghanaians will buy into that story if it's worth it.
How do you respond to some of these questions on our stream? So we have Kunalese Johnson, and then also Nadine Dinsey, all of them raising the same question. I even have Elliot Kalai, who is also raising the same questions about all these being machinations, so to speak. Even though in law, the law is a law, but outside to the courts, these are they claim these are all part of the political machinations and strategies.
Where do those people stand?
Well, that's everybody's
They are watching.
Everybody's entitled to his own opinion.
Get closer to the mic for me.
Everybody's entitled to his own opinion and perception, and people form opinions and perception over a long period or short period because of the things they get to know. He knows as a lawyer that we have done cases of proxy, several cases where the defendant, the plaintiff, is just a proxy. I'm not going to do that. On any raining day, we have had too much of the empty bluff of the MPP about the person and the work of Mahama.
You think he's become a headache for the MPP?
He's such a terrible headache for them.
How?
Throughout.
He was defeated in 2020.
Wait a minute. No, don't give me answers because I haven't asked you any question. Have I asked you a question?
No, you
Don't I know that he was defeated?
Oh, okay. Please go ahead.
On any day, we are ready to debate the person Mahama and what he has done for this country. We are ready to also prove all their falsehoods that they peddled against John Mahama. We have done our research. The total number of corruption cases that were leveled against John Mahama on record is 11. And I can list them for you right here now. Bus branding is Mahama, as if Mahama was the artist who branded the buses. I confirm, as if Mahama was the farmer, when indeed everybody knows that Mahama was nowhere near that I confirm matter. And then Manasseh Azuri himself has come to say, no, that was not what I meant. But yet, even the vice president recites it. Mahama is not an angel, he's not a saint. And he has a right to correct whatever mistakes he thinks as a person he committed when he was a president.
But what? We want to know, please, Uncle.
Please go ahead.
Help me.
If you want to answer his question too, you can go ahead.
Yes, but I'm not going to answer the question.
Okay, please go ahead.
See, if it's your attempt to distort my thought, it will not work.
No, really, I can't do that.
Please go ahead.
I am saying that during the time of Mahama, with all his incompetence so-called, we were not downgraded. Our economy was not downgraded. We did not run an economy 75 billion worth, and now we are begging for 3 billion loan. Mahama did not do that. On record, Mahama financed the whole budget without Bank of Ghana support. Did Mahama collapse banks? Today, I mean, what hurts me as a former Deputy Minister of Environment is the fact that we are taking loans to plant trees. At the same time, we are allowing people to destroy our forest. I have said that this country, we need a ministry of common sense. Mahama will not break down a whole hospital at Teshi, your own place, your own place, You wouldn't break down a whole hospital without any, any knowledge where he was going to rebuild the hospital. Go to trade fair. You may have been a young man then. Me, I traveled from Takrady and I got lost at the trade fair because of the number of people there on the trade fair exhibition. You remember Ghana International Trade Fair? Did they go there? Even the Awudome Cemetery is better than the trade fair. Muhammad did not do that. When you said I on port, I said today. Roland, you live in Tema. What is the story in Tema? Tema Port. What is the story there? We took a loan from India, you remember, to construct a road from Tema to Mpakadai. What was the reason? That we have expanded our port so much that the landlocked countries, Mali, Niger, and the rest, were all coming down here. But they were destroying our roads, and the truck volumes could not deal with their trade. So let us construct that road, railway to Mpakadai. Today, the trucks are not even coming. The trucks are going to Togo and Cote d'Ivoire. And so that loan that we took from India to build the railway, how are you going to pay? 7 years down the line, you have not put one coach on the railway line from Tema to Mpakadai. So that investment isn't not going waste. Kumi, don't talk about correction. We have locked up $2 million. Roland, you know $2 million in a project called SkyTrain. SkyTrain.
I don't understand. What are SkyTrain?
Ghana has invested in a South African company with a quantum of $2 million.
Oh, if I remember that story very well, it was supposed to be, is it for feasibility or something like that? Is it not that monorail that was supposed to have?
SkyTrain. Don't call it mono anything, it's SkyTrain.
Okay.
You are from the Volta region. We gave money. They said they were going to do feasibility study about the Keta Sea defense. And you, Roland, aren't you heard that you have a signboard as a port? In your homeland, signboard, port of Keta. Aren't you worried? You sit here and you are happy. And you are saying, no, corruption, whatever it is. Corruption is not as painful as the sea taking over Qatar. And what annoys me one day, Roland, when the people of Qatar were complaining, we had a member of parliament saying that the sea erosion is as a result of the sand winning activities of the people of Qatar. But Qatar doesn't have yellow shores, sea sand. Qatar doesn't have that. They even showed pictures of sand winning with trucks and everything.
There was a picture from Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone. Yes. But they use it.
Who used it?
Mark, your deputy, Afenyo Markin.
There's an issue he came out to apologize. Based on the pictures he saw, that's what led him to come. But it's public knowledge.
Is it press conference?
Yeah. So
but
this is quite deceptive.
And as Kumi say, forgive him.
Kumi, I have my own.
And but you say you should forgive.
I have my own
yes,
time.
you should forgive.
Forgive
my hometown MP.
Allow me.
All right.
My hometown man.
When you were saying that Victoria Hammer, that's your sister, had declared intention that as for me, if I don't get 1 million,
your bay also up here 1 million.
And so also I say, please be careful. Yeah. From where you came, you have nothing.
It was sacking.
He was sacked. But MPP use it as a means of saying that Muhammad was corrupt. I am reciting their cases of corruption which they have hidden behind the veil. Muhammad is corrupt, Muhammad is incompetent. Please bring them out. Bring Muhammad's incompetence and corruption out. And we'll deal with it seriously. Chief, the issue at stake is that today, as we said, as a country, we are the leading producers of cocoa, gold, and the co-leaders of cocoa production. All right. Now the European Union is saying that Ghana, be careful. Because if you don't stop your environmental practices, we will stop importing cocoa from Ghana. And when cocoa is not exported...
An environmental practice you are referring to...
Galamsey, cyanide. Who want to eat chocolate from...
The Europeans are worried?
Everybody is worried. Everybody is worried. For the first time, CMB is indebted. Could we be thinking about that? We went to IMF, and it was their slogan. Mahama is incompetent, he went to IMF. Even going to the IMF, you don't know how to go. You have to shave people, cut people's head before you go to IMF. You are talking about Mahama's incompetence.
I don't understand. What do you mean by they have to shave people, cut people?
Well, look at the pensioners' bond.
Oh, okay, you mean the bondholders?
The bondholders. Okay. And they said they have not finished. So bring it on. Bring on any day, when even I'm sleeping. Bring Mahama's corruption and incompetence on. Bring it on. Did Mahama sell oil at what is it? Bost? Mvumpina. Have you forgotten about it? In all his corruption, Mahama didn't collect any money from any...
Mr. Sampila, I thought there was an investigation.
What investigation? In Ghana today, investigations that people have been cleared. The special prosecutor is still calling the persons that were so cleared. So, Roland, I am not those people who will come on television and then they recite Mahama incompetent and Mahama is corrupt. I will put you to test because we have the facts and evidence. Mahama never downgraded this economy. We went to Senche and we went to IMF with our own program. You going to IMF, you have to go and rent Americans or Europeans to go and do it for you. Mahama didn't collapse any bank and give them bonds. So we are ready for you. Don't talk. You are a fine gentleman. Never engage me on that argument of corruption.
I thought you were actually going to disprove the fact that...
What is your fact about
the fact out there?
That what? That Mohammed's corruption. What is the fact?
Should I go ahead and ask a question?
Yes, do.
Please.
Yeah, you will come back to me, right?
We'll move on to some other issues as well. But Rem, at the heart of all this is that there's this public sentiment, whether it's from the members of the public who are with the other side of the political divide or in opposition, that John Dramani Mahama has become a thorn in the flesh of the governing MPP. Looking at how things are now in the run-up to 2024.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Yes, for anyone who might have such a view, they wouldn't be wrong because if you look at the last election, yes, he lost by, as you said earlier, about 500,000 votes. And still currently retains overwhelming support within the ranks of the NDC. So yes, anyone in the MPP naturally would be worried, particularly when now what is happening also is that the MPP has not yet elected their flag bearer. That's one thing we need to take note of. And so, unfortunately for Mr. Mahama, he's going to be the only target until November, when the MPP elects their presidential candidate. But I wouldn't want us to, personally, I don't think we should stick this issue to hang ex-President Mahama. I would stick this issue and make it a Mahama issue or an MPP NDC issue. You see, at the end of the day, the crux of the issue is that regardless of whichever way we look at it, there are teething challenges that both governments, be it MPP, Nana Akufo-Addo's government, or ex-President Mahama, when he was in power, have over the years not been able to solve, which have become detrimental to our development and progress as a country. You see, we still have, irrespective of which government, we still have a very exclusionary political system where one needs to be a card-bearing member of the ruling government to be able to benefit, to be able to get contracts. As I mentioned earlier, right from the assembly level all the way up in government. This needs to change because we cannot progress this way as a country. All of us, the Constitution grants us the freedom of expression and association. So not all of us can be part of the MPP. Not all of us can be part of the NDC. Not everybody will want to be part of the PPP or any other party. But that once you call a Ghanaian, the Constitution gives you rights as a Ghanaian, it is your fundamental right that any government, whether it's your government or not, should take care of you and make your life comfortable. The issue of corruption, which both governments have failed to address properly, we link it to one of the issues, our poor asset declaration regime. You know, it's quite laughable that if I'm appointed as a minister, for example, or a public servant, all I have to do is put together my documents, put it in an envelope, seal it, and give it to the Auditor General.
That's all.
Who cannot open it. And so as to whether I came in with one aboboya, one motorcycle, and I'm leaving with 10 houses, no one checks me. And this is one key loophole that needs to change because it's become a great incentive to corruption in this country. Again, on the same issue of corruption, and then there's a very clear lack of oversight of the lawmaking body over the executive. We have a situation where the constitution allows the president to pick a good number of his ministers from parliament. And this needs to change. What happens is that the MPs would all try to catch the attention of the president. If I want to be a minister, how am I going to criticize the president? I will not do it. If the president brings in a bill, there will be very weak scrutiny because I want to make sure that I catch his eye.
So what do you advocate for? A complete decoupling or just reducing the numbers?
There are a lot of well-qualified Ghanaians like yourself, Roland, like Honorable Alenko, who are not in parliament, who qualify to serve as ministers and on boards and other state institutions. We should tap into this very large pool of talent and then leave parliamentarians to stay in parliament and play their role. Because if they are not often you look at parliament and most if you check the Hansard, most of the times, unless there's a very critical issue that's important to both parties, that is when you find MPs rushing to come in. Most times they are out there because they have to go, if he's a board of director of a state institution, he has to go for meetings and all of that, and he is not able to do the work of the people sent him there. But by this position, he's failing the people. And then lastly also is the selective, on the matter of justice and rule of law, because we also need to decouple the role of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice. Why? Because it is a political appointment, and there's no way the person will be able to properly go after government appointees cited for corruption. You often find that there appears to be some selective application. The target is more on opposition, people who are perceived to be not in government against the government. But, for example, with the OSP role, for example, it is something that the people have advocated that he should not have been under the special prosecutor. It should have been a completely independent role.
It shouldn't have been
Under the Attorney General.
The Attorney General.
Sorry. It should be a completely autonomous, independent role. He should also be given security of tenure, so that it doesn't matter which government appointed him. If it's 5 years we are giving him, if it's 4 years we are giving him, he shouldn't have any fear and worry that if I go after any government appointee, the government in power can remove. But as it is now, that can happen. And so these are issues that both governments have failed to do. And going forward, we want the conversation to center on these key provisions, which will ensure that the country is governed better and that you and I, ordinary lives, will be better for it.
If you look at Article 68, 68.2, it says the president shall not, on leaving office as president, hold any office of profit or emolument, except with the permission of Parliament. John Mahama is not holding any office of profit.
Not currently, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should not be an obstacle for him not to become a presidential candidate, or would need the approval of Parliament before he goes ahead to become.
That shouldn't be.
All right. Ernest, as we wrap up on this, for you, what do you hope ultimately will be the outcome for Ken Kuranchie? Knowing that he also is an interested, politically exposed person.
Roland, I cannot prejudice the case before the courts, and therefore I cannot say anything about my expectation. I've given an overview of what I think the case looks like, but I cannot preempt it. What I would say rather is that when my uncle Sampi Ali was talking about corruption, I saw how he struggled to link corruption. Yeah, you struggled. You were only mentioning projects that, for instance, this SkyTrain issue that you mentioned. You saw how Roland was pointing it out. For me, I was thinking that...
I would answer which questions?
No, I was thinking that with the energy you were putting in, you were going to disprove the allegations of corruptions that... Hold on. I'm going to cite them to you. You understand? For instance, government official one was a major thing against President Mahama.
Shame.
Don't worry.
For a lawyer like you to talk about government official one, shame.
Uncle,
Shame on you, Kumi.
Relax.
Man, get them.
No, relax. Beyond that, even with this Ford saga, Shraj investigated the case and gave its report. What was the outcome of the report? It was clearly stated that as the number one man of the state then, he violated the gift policy of the state. How do you take this personal corruption away from him? So you see, no matter the attempts that you make to smear things at this government, hold on. There's a lot.
No, just two more.
There is a lot. There's a lot.
Two more.
I am telling you, even the ones that official sources, you and I know very well. I don't want to even go into the way, the realms in which you entered and just spoke mere rhetoric about things that you want to link it to the government. I'm telling you, this is an official report of Shraj, and it says that as the number one man of the state then, he violated the gift policy of the state. Do you think it's worth it? Is it worthwhile that as a president, he will violate such a policy? It is he that should have been a custodian of that policy, but yet he himself violated. So these are not just things that we are throwing at him. Secondly, you spoke about the fact that it is within his right to come back to correct the... Which correction is he going to do?
Have I said that?
No, in your discussion, when I said President Mahama said in Cape Coast that he's coming back to correct the errors of the past. That was your response.
He's a human being. He can correct errors.
It's not just errors.
So I'm saying that cite the cases.
That's all of you.
Yeah.
Please wrap up for me. I want to go
case?
to an issue of some concern of Botiano people. Please wrap up.
Yeah, we'll go there. But I mean, the point I'm making is that, you see, President Mahama has been cited for personal corruption that can be linked to him even as a person.
So you're saying that...
So I'm saying that if he is coming back, there is a need for himself to justify why he's coming back. Okay. There's a need for him himself to cleanse himself to us as a public. That indeed, all these things that were said, for me, the sad aspect is that there's not even a single attempt to clear his name from all this mud that was smeared at him. Something that your own party people even do accept and do understand that it did happen. So it's not just me mentioning these things to you. These are things that has happened there. Secondly, the other aspect is that the same people that he ruled in the previous days or the previous years with, these are the same bunch of people he's ruling out with. The same people that could be cited for corruption-related activities in the past are today the key people that he has surrounded himself with. Now, what shows that there is even any change in mind and attitude that you are coming to even pursue the governance with? Then we could even say that, okay, with a new crop of people around him, we expect some change coming out of him. But as we speak now, the same group of people, the same bunch of corrupt people, how do we expect a different outcome? So for me, for President Mahama to come back, he needs to purge himself. He needs to sell a new Mahama to us where we could clearly identify that he has cleansed himself or rigged himself of the corruption-related activities in the past. It is not just the rhetoric of you trying to link this government to activities of corruption because for want of uncompleted projects, you think by that means then it is... I mean, even if it is corruption, you still have the right to go to court. I am citing specific incidents that people have attempted to bring these corruption-related activities to the notice of state authorities. And it's been proven beyond doubt that these activities did happen.
And let's see how Kumi. Great delivery there. And now we have this message from Chris from Ashalibotwe, who says that those who are unable to point out the achievements of the MPP are quick to call John Mahama names. Is Mr. Kumi saying he has not cited the NDC's 2020 manifesto, which is the latest as far as introduction of development, and what value proposition John Mahama and the NDC is selling to voters. And then I have this one from Oseboating from Sontreso. And he says that take a look at the MPP and the array of individuals who are contesting for the presidency, and they can match John Dramani Mahama anytime, any day. Just wait for a presidential candidate to be elected. Go on DMB for 2024. Well, it's where we have to go to the community of Botiano. We've had young people or a number of individuals who the police say engage in a shootout with them and subsequently led to killings or death.